Marcus Aurelius once said, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." On today's episode, we're going to be talking about how the world is getting louder and just the small things that my wife and I have experienced that has helped us make sure that we stay on the same page. So, welcome to Built for Life, Not Just Wealth. This podcast is all about not only helping you with your money and where to be putting money to build the life that you want, but more specifically, at least in Alex and my practice, it's not just about the money. It's about really our thoughts and the values and what does that end result look like? What do we want our life to be? And that conversation is often not held in financial planning conversations. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Where this all stemmed from is, my wife and I go on a ruck almost every morning. We're not perfect, but almost every morning. Nothing complicated, just a weighted backpack and a few miles we walk around the neighborhood. And those walks have been probably the most valuable parts, at least for me. Can't speak for my wife. She may hate it. Who knows? But it's the most valuable part for me because we talk about everything. We talk about the business. We talk about what's going on in our personal world that maybe we're not getting a chance to speak to because of how life is. And just sometimes it's just what's happening in the world. And over the last several years, one thing kept coming up over and over again. And it feels like the world is just getting louder. Not necessarily worse, just louder. Sometimes it's, there's a day that there's a crisis or another opinion or even another headline or maybe another post that captures your attention. Market politics, social media, economic predictions. Someone is always declaring something, either for the good or for the bad or somewhere in between. And at some point on one of those walks, my wife and I realized that something so simple for us, like a walk, became so important. The more I read about the human brain, I'm learning that it's not really designed to process the entire world's problems in real time. And yet, that's exactly what I think we're doing as human beings right now. For most of, I think, human history, and I'm not a human history expert, but the more I read into this, the problems that we used to be exposed to, I know as a kid, the problems I was more exposed to was the local stuff. And if you think about 1800s and 1900s, there wasn't the social media, there wasn't the technology for the world news to be exposed. So it was just what was happening in your local community, right? Your family, your village, your work. Maybe a few dozen people you interacted with is how you process information or got information. And today we wake up and we roll over, we grab our phone, and instantly we're absorbed with concerns of millions of other people, or maybe it's positive stuff or comparison stuff, and your brain is trying to process all of it like every single piece of it matters. Like think about it. I mean, I was just this morning, got up, did my normal thing, started looking at my emails at work. I got I got distracted, started looking at Twitter, and immediately I started looking at everyone else's thoughts. And some of these things, I had to pause and like, why am I reading this? I don't even care. Yet it's so easy to get distracted to think that you care. And so I want to do like less doom scrolling. I want to spend my time intentionally. And my wife and I are trying to do that very, very well together. And it's hard, right? So we want to do more time reading things that we really enjoy, more time doing things with our family and our kids, pickleball, date nights, top golf with the kids that we just did a couple weekends ago, walks outside. Those are important to us. All of this stuff, this realization that my wife and I've had really kind of show up in four areas of our life. And I think it will show up in your life as well. Number one is, financial anxiety is often information overload. My job is to look at what's going on in the world from an economic standpoint. And so that I understand it, mainly because I know my clients might be reading it and I want to make sure that I'm on the same page as them or I've seen the same stuff so that I can speak into it. You know, this is like maybe the clearest example right now because people are, markets aren't, they're kind of wobbly right now. There's the inflation headline, there's a recession prediction. We don't know what's going on yet. How many people are out there predicting this stuff? And some of these people are rather smart people, but there's been no person on the face of this planet that has predicted with any kind of consistency of what the market may or may not do in any given year. So why are we giving these people that type of control of what we read or what we think? A well-built financial strategy isn't designed to react to every market movement. It's designed really to survive them. Cash flow funds our life. Liquidity covers disruptions as well as good stuff. Disruption can be good as well. Investments will grow over time as long as you set your balance sheet up so you don't have to touch those investments. And when those pieces are in place, the market noise becomes exactly what it should be, just noise. The goal of planning isn't prediction, the goal is resilience. That takes me to number two, and that's the social life. Like humans were never built for global comparison. Yet that's exactly what I think many of us do, myself included, right? You get up, you're doing your thing, you're reading some article, you're scrolling on Instagram or Twitter, whatever you scroll on, Facebook. Someone's on vacation, someone's always on vacation, someone's always posting a family photo, someone's always posting stuff. And most of the time, I'm like, oh, that's really cool. It looks like they're having a great time. But sometimes I do get in this comparison mode, like, oh, I wonder if I could do that. Right? The financial piece creeps in here as well. Or maybe it's just, I wish I had that kind of life. And my wife and I have slowly started to not necessarily disregard, because I definitely want to keep in touch with people that I love and care about. And some of that is through social media, but more so around, okay, is like what they're doing is, do I want to compare myself to that? Or am I living the life that I want to live right now? Right? This constant comparison, I think slowly can erode our satisfaction. And I'm doing my best to get over that. And I think a big key, at least for my wife and I, is again, I'm going to tie it back to these walks. It breaks us away from everything. And I'm not trying to get on a sermon here or on my own pedestal, but too often when we're on these walks, we just see people walking around and their face is still buried in their phone. And I do think that's not the break that you need. I'm glad they're out for a walk. That's awesome. But if you're still buried in your phone, hopefully you can get away from it at some point as well, which ties into the mental health aspect, right? Constant alerts creates false urgency sometimes, right? Our brains have evolved to respond to real threats. And these stupid phones have turned into a giant threat on some level, because how many times are we get a notification and the first thing we do is we pick up the phone or we look at our Apple Watch to see what's going on rather than focusing our attention on maybe where it should be. Either that could be at work, that could be with your child, that could be with your wife, who knows? And so, these alerts come from phones, breaking notifications. It, we react oftentimes and we become more stressed. At least I do. And I'm trying to do my best to get over that. So I've actually deactivated a lot of the notifications for that on my phone and my watch, and I get way less notifications, which allows me to focus on more stuff that I want to be doing. Number four, physical health, right? Stress without the movement. Historically, stress came with movement, the fight or flight, aspect of it. But more so, we are more sedentary than ever before. This is the reason I've recorded episodes on this in the past. COVID really hit me upside the head, from the standpoint of, I looked at my body and looked how I felt, and I wanted to get in better physical health. And since my wife and I have taken that step, it really flows through in so many different areas, from our mental health to the conversations I'm having with my wife and my kids, right? That relationship that comes with that. Also to our finances. It is really hard to actually have time to sit down and talk about money or talk about what's going on there. And at least for my wife and I, the walks turn into conversations like that, maybe once a week or something. And so that's been a huge piece for us, which has kept us on the same page for many issues that are coming up. Specifically right now, my daughter's going off to college here in August. Right, I'm recording this on March 16th, and we constantly talking about it. Well, we've got this bill coming up. We're having to pay up front so that my daughter can choose what dorm she gets to live in rather than being on the bottom of the list and maybe not getting the dorm that she wants. So it's just constantly money's coming out, and we have to be on the same page, make sure we're not making stupid mistakes. And so I think being physically fit, being mentally aware and not stressed, being financially savvy and aware and comfortable, when you add all this together, it is a much simpler life, I think, at least for my wife and I. And I'm not trying to preach that we're perfect. There are plenty of times, like this morning, we got on a doom scroll type of thing, and it gets frustrating, but we pull ourselves out of it. And so I think that's a key thing when it comes to living life, right? Is making sure you've got someone that can pull you out of the doom scroll, which is easier said than done. So the real lesson, I know I'm kind of rambling here. The real lesson here is, yeah, over time, I realized something that's really important, at least for my family. Uh, that importance is I want to make sure I am taking care of my family. I'm vested with my family. I'm present with my family, as well as building a business to help other people live the life that they want. And what I mean by that is truly helping you understand what is it you want your life to look like. When people get to retirement and you say, what are you going to do? Or if you had all the money in the world right now and you didn't have to work, what would you do? And I get blank stares oftentimes with that question. And I think it's going to be really important. If you knew what it is that you want and what you value, it's much easier to build towards that than build to something that may or may not, you may not even want. Like imagine getting a retirement and you've got a life you absolutely hate. So some takeaways to reflect on is pay attention to what is competing for your attention, right? Not all information deserves equal weight. Number 2, notice what makes you feel lighter. And that's really hard to do because, just this past weekend, we went from, my son's birthday to a dinner to a something later on for another friend. And right, like when you go through and you're just hour by hour by hour, everything's taken up. It's hard to actually just like take a second and say, oh man, this feels really good. I like how I'm feeling right now. But when you can be present in that moment and kind of teach yourself to be that way, it really helps you decide on where you should be spending more of your time so you can feel that lighter feel of life. Then number 3, create intentional filters for modern life. The goal is not to ignore the world. The goal is to avoid drowning in it. And so I hope, I hope this idea resonates with you. I again, things pop in my head and I wanted to share with you, and I'd love to get feedback from our listeners here. So consider heading over to built for life, not just wealth.com. And at the top, there's a contact us spot where you can send me a note, say, hey, loved your last episode or hated your last episode, and let me know what you're thinking. Or if you have any other questions specifically around finances or anything else, any other topics that you want us to talk about, it's a great way to reach out to us. Also, in the show notes, you'll see a financial scorecard. If you're looking at, if you're sitting there thinking, man, I really should probably look at my money with more intentionality, and you're wondering if Ryan or Alex can help, or if you just want to get a scorecard, it's really just a high level look at your finances. Alex and I don't get this information. Click on the link in the show notes. It takes you to a site. You fill out some information. It gives you a scorecard at the end. Alex and I don't get this information. I can't stress that enough. So don't feel worried that you're going to fill out this and then you're going to get an email from my team. That's not what this is all about. The only way you would get an email from my team is at the end. There's actually a note that says, please send this to Ryan and Alex and have them reach out to me. So I hope this episode was valuable for you. As always, make it a great day.
This podcast is for informational purposes only and is not to be construed as tax, legal, or investment advice. Although the information has been gathered from sources believed to be reliable, please note that individual situations can vary. Therefore, the information should be relied upon only when coordinated with individual professional advice. Guest speakers and their firms are not affiliated with or endorsed by Park Avenue Securities, Guardian, or Quantified Financial Partners, and opinions stated are their own. Guardian, its subsidiaries, agents, and employees do not provide tax, legal, or accounting advice. Consult your tax, legal, or accounting professional regarding your individual situation. All investments and investment strategies contain risk and may lose value. This material is intended for general public use. By providing this content, Park Avenue Securities LLC is not undertaking to provide investment advice or a recommendation for any specific individual or situation, or to otherwise act in a fiduciary capacity. Please contact a financial representative for guidance and information that is specific to your individual situation. Ryan and Alex are registered representatives and financial advisors of Park Avenue Securities, LLC, OSJ 200 Market Street, Suite 1850, Portland, Oregon 97201. Phone number 503-221-1226. Securities products and advisory services offered through Park Avenue Securities, member FINRA, SIPC. Financial representatives of the Guardian Life Insurance Company of America, Guardian, New York, New York. Park Avenue Securities is a wholly owned subsidiary of Guardian. Quantified Financial Partners is not an affiliate or subsidiary of Park Avenue Securities or Guardian. Ryan Burklo, CA Insurance License Number 0K24924. Alexander Collins, CA Insurance License Number 0H24806.
8825774.1 expiration date March 2028.